Welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this. Even though you missed the live party, guys, that is the best part, so make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. If you'd like to support the channel, head on over to TheIndianJesus.com for your very own official merch. It's getting cold. Get yourself a hoodie. TheIndianJesus.com. Guys, we do also have a Discord server that is absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. It's a great place to meet people and have interesting conversations. And like I said, it's absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below the video, hit that join button. There's a few different tiers here, but it starts at just $2.99 a month. Gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. And it opens up the full Discord server, including the after party channel. It's a voice channel where as soon as we are done with YouTube, we head over there. We don't have to worry about any of the censors, and you are not stuck behind your keyboard. You're actually on screen with me and everybody else. It is a good time. Definitely come and join us. So we got a special guest today. Help me welcome Lydia. Welcome to the party. And we got more.
It's great to be at the party. Thanks for having me on. This is fun.
I'm very, very glad to be here. So we are gonna give everybody the
I'm here to help with
your story, your what do you call it, your 1 minute recap.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, do you want to just tell people who you are, where they can find you, and what do you do?
Yes, absolutely. So hello, I am Lydia Knight. I'm the founder of the She Center, and I am the survivor of I'm a cult survivor, and it's a story that I haven't really talked about much, but I've been talking about it, and it's been blowing up, and it's been very fun, and it's all very connected with what I do now and my mission in the world. So we're here to chat about that, and a place to find us is theshecenter.org, but then on a story time is where I'm telling cult stories on TikTok. So that's how those worlds come together.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And all those links will be in the description below. So I see our poll. Did you see the stream on Saturday where we covered Lydia's TikTok page? Most of you it's split in the middle, but Lydia thankfully gave us a 1 minute recap. So let's hear from Lydia.
I'm here to help with your confusion. Y'all are in one of two camps. You've either watched every video on this account and you're like, this is an incredibly insane story, tell me more. Or two, you're new and you're super confused. My charismatic rodeo queen grandmother was the leader of the cult that I grew up in. It was a cult that was formed within the Mormon Church. I was told growing up that I was a survivor of satanic ritualistic abuse. My father was a leader of a satanic worshiping organization that controlled the whole world up to the highest levels of government, and that I was running for my life and could be unalived at any time. Turns out none of it was true. And that I am not alone in this. This was a cultural thing that swept the nation called satanic panic in the 80s. This big cultural fear of Satan worshipers. And all of this completely made up, no truth, television hosts coming out later and being like, sorry, we made it all up. We just wanted more ratings. A complete witch hunt that especially targeted people of color. And instead of just being like, this is a messed up cultural thing that we're part of, my family decided to make it into a whole cult. I am the only one that got out. My grandmother is still a cult leader, and my mother and my brother live in the basement, and my brother hasn't come out of his room for like a decade. The good news is that I took the principles that I created to deprogram myself from a cult and have helped 9,000 other people deprogram from diet culture, patriarchy, and oppressive religion and upbringing. Because sometimes the most dark, horrible things that happen to you end up turning into an incredible force for good. I've written a double memoir about my story. The link is in the bio. I hope you're now less confused, but if you are still confused but intrigued, feel free to watch the pinned videos and stick around. And hello, I'm Lydia.
Hello, Lydia. And so we already did all that, and very excited. Let's shout out. We got our boy Nick Luchetti in the building. Welcome, welcome. Shout out to Melted Mind Media. We also got King Nirvana and Carl. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I said I grew up in a cult and would not trade the insights I got from it for any kind of normal childhood. It's a PhD in brainwashing and manipulation. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, this is a great question. So high five, cult friend. Yeah, it's a very unique way to grow up. And it is a masterclass on a lot of things. So my belief in what we teach our clients is that
you don't need bad stuff to happen to you to grow. You don't need trauma. You don't need people to treat you badly. Like, that's not okay. And the way that we choose to respond to our circumstances creates our lives. And so I wouldn't trade what I learned from how I chose to respond to that upbringing for anything, because it has helped over 9,000 other people. It's been the most amazing thing. I'm glad you like the TikToks. So yes, but just an emphasis on, we don't need bad things to happen for us to grow, but if they're going to happen anyway, let's grow from them.
May as well. And yeah, so very, very interesting. Shout out to Jack. Welcome. So the first question that I had is just trying to really understand the structure of this. So I understand that it was a Mormon cult, but how closely connected to I don't know, what would you call it, normal Mormonism, all that, like how different was it from, let's say, the rest of your classmates at BYU?
Yeah, great question. So I grew up in the Mormon church, and that is its own thing with lots of different, you can call it a cult, you can not call it a cult, you can call it a religion. So there are different ways to think of that, but there's the structure and the dogma there. Now, we happen to be Mormon, and then my grandmother created this cult based off of the Satanic panic that was happening in the 80s and took it to the extreme. So totally different organizations. It wasn't like an official cult of the Mormon church. It was something that my grandmother decided to do. But what happened in the cult upbringing is that there were a lot of Mormon doctrines that came into it. So for instance, my mother was getting messages from God about knowing everything about this satanic organization. And part of the Mormon church belief is that you can get direct, like, revelation from God. Like, God can tell you things directly. So there were beliefs in the Mormon church that stacked on the cult story, but they were different official organizations.
Interesting. So when you say that when you say GMA is still running the cult, that how connected, like, are other people within Mormonism looking at that cult being like, what are they doing? They're crazy. We're the normal ones. Or is it just kind of, that's how they do it?
Yeah, so it's like a little organization within the Mormon church, and most of the people within that cult are Mormon, because those are mainly who my grandmother's contacts are. So there's like the family part of the cult, where my mother, my brother, they still live in GMA's basement. Like, they deliver food to my brother's door. Like, I'm really the only one that's left. So that's like the inner circle. And then there's this outer circle of all of the people that are involved with the story. So for instance, my grandmother had a whole bunch of friends from the Mormon church and otherwise that would go without food or water. Again, that's a Mormon thing, but she was having them specifically go without food or water as a strong prayer to keep the Satan worshipers from coming and killing my brother and myself. So that's how everyone is involved. Is she had, like, before there was social media, she had a whole bunch of followers being updated on the cult story and sort of shifting their lives around, how do we save the children from the Satan worshipers?
And that was the kind of main bottom line, is that there's Satan worshipers out there, and we need to protect the children.
Exactly. And that we had already been terribly abused, and that all this horrible stuff has happened, and that our brains had received all of this satanic programming. Yeah, so there was layers of terror on that. But spoiler, none of it was true.
Yay. Thank goodness. So I mean, I personally, I grew up, I was born into the Catholic Church, and I was switched over to the Methodist Church for a while, but I've been an atheist since I went to college and discovered psychology, philosophy, and drugs. But I've always, growing up in the Catholic Church, that's obviously where I get my core values, and a lot of people here are Christians. You talked about how, you have your spirituality. Do you follow anything more organized these days, or is it just that spirituality aspect?
Yeah, I was very happily an atheist for a long time, and I agree with lots of those sorts of tenets. And then I also think that whatever structure we're raised in, there are good things to keep, right? Like, I disagree with a lot of ways that I was raised, being Mormon, being in a cult. And I agree with some of the values and principles that came from that. So my philosophy is that you do what works and you take what serves you best and you create that in your own spirituality. So that's really where I'm at. I wouldn't put myself in a label of any organized religion, but I think there are great things that happen in any organization, and there are not great things that happen in every organization. So it's good to decipher.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of my big things as, an atheist, I'm strongly in the atheist camp. But again, that doesn't mean that you can't have, spiritual aspects to your life, that you can't, value Christian principles and all that stuff. And so my thing is trying to, from like a more political realm, the Republican Party has always been wrapped around Christianity and evangelical stuff. And just the idea of dogma, whether it's religious or otherwise, is just a really bad thing. And, they say the only way that you can get a good man to commit atrocities is with dogma. Because it doesn't have to do with, oh, you're stupid for believing this, or you're crazy for believing this. It has to do with, how our brains work. And, if it's what you're brought up with, if it's what you're indoctrinated in, then it makes perfect sense to you. So how did that all start? Was it from as long as you can remember, or did you have any normalcy of just being a kid, or did it start immediately as you can remember?
Oh, it was from the start. So my earliest memories are being terrified of Satan worshipers and looking for satanic signs and symbols and all of that. So it really started with my mother marrying someone and having children with someone that was not white, and that was not a plus for my grandparents. And so when they started having some marital issues, they were talking about like, oh, well, and again, especially targeted at people of color with the satanic panic. I was taught that one way to recognize if someone worships Satan is if they're Asian. I was terrified of Asian people. And I looked in the mirror and I looked like the people I was terrified of. It was not cool. So even from the very beginning, I think it was, and you can speculate, I don't really know, but it seemed like an excuse for my grandmother to start alienating my father because the satanic panic was coming up and they were putting things together like, oh, well, he's probably worshiping Satan. And it was a way to break the family apart that G-Ma wasn't happy with. So that's how I think it started. But I wish I knew the true reasons behind why this story just got blown up in a crazy way.
So, and that's what was it? Can you talk a little bit about how your father came into the picture? Because if this idea of Asian people being satanic was so strong, how did they get together? How did that become accepted?
Yeah, so they met at a Mormon dance for young singles, and my dad in Taiwan had joined the Mormon church, and he came over to the United States and went to this nice church dance and met this woman that wanted to get married right away. He's like,
those Mormons.
Okay. And that's really how it happened. It happened in the most normal circumstances of meeting at a dance, and of course he had no idea what was going to
what he's getting into.
Yeah.
Wild. And so I just, and that actually makes a lot of sense because I'm sure you've seen the TikToks where the guys at BYU and just asking students questions. And I saw one where he's like, would you rather leave BYU without a ring or without a degree? And they're like, I'd rather leave without a degree. All right. You Mormons know how to do it.
Oh yeah, at BYU, the dating culture is just wild. So the person that I ended up marrying, we were engaged within 3 months of meeting and married within 6 months of meeting.
Wow.
Things go fast. There's a real high priority on that for sure.
And I'm sure that has a lot to do with the no sex before marriage.
I'm sure it's a factor.
Interesting. We got a question here from King Nirvana. An update on the sleep paralysis.
I might need some more context. Is that a question for me? Sleep paralysis.
I believe you were saying that when you were younger, you had when you were thinking about these, you'd wake up and have a sleep paralysis. Are we mixing me up with someone else?
Might be mixing me up, but
well.
but thank you.
Already.
I always encourage the questions. So yeah, not
No
sure.
such thing as a bad question. We talk about a lot of stuff here, so don't worry about it. And can you the strongest thing I think about having you come here is talking about the aspect of that switch when you're starting to figure out that you don't believe what you think you believe. And you know, as somebody who is talking to Christians a lot and not trying to take religion away from anybody, but showing like, hey, you know, we other people who are not Christians or not religious can be, you know, can be good people too. The aspect of pulling back from the dogma. And sorry, I just lost my train of thought. And King Sang's being gaslit. I don't know.
Oh, like the moment of switching, right? Of like when you stop believing the thing that was truth for you before. That's a really great thing to examine.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, and so that I'm not trying to take religion away from people, but maybe if they think about things differently, that they will want to, on their own, question those beliefs and maybe not throw everything away, but take a step back from it and realize, okay, like I like this. I like Christianity as a worldview. I want to follow Christianity, but maybe I don't need to be as defensive to other ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. So like we can look at the moment of switching, of like not believing that, or the value of like looking at ideas outside of our own. Like what feels most fun to explore first?
Let's go inside first.
Okay. Yeah. So wait, which one first?
The first one.
Oh, the inside. Okay. Thank you. So I left the Mormon church without sinning, which is a wild thing because in the Mormon church, everyone says what you're told is that nobody thinks their way out of the Mormon church. People sin their way out of the Mormon church. Like you lose the spirit of God and then you're off track and then you're, so, I mean, I was betting my entire eternity on this. Like I had gotten all of the points. I was going to the celestial kingdom. I was going to make worlds next to the man that I was married to, because that's the highest rank that you can be as a woman, is like next to a man. And so I was betting my entire eternity. And a big part of leaving the Mormon faith was that I didn't want to just fade away or start sinning or give up on something that really had a lot of merit. And so what I did is weekly, I would go to the Mormon temple, which is supposed to be a place where there is no influence of Satan. And my goal was to think with my own brain through everything that I believed in the temple, outside of Satan's influence, and really figure out what I thought. And so a big part of that switch out of the cult, out of the Mormon church, leaving an abusive marriage, is building a trust with our own brains.
Absolutely.
And understanding that we can come to a path of logic and understanding and find out what is true for us with our own intuition and our own brains and thinking through it, and removing ourselves from the point of like one big switch was, instead of, well, I know what's true, I just need to align with it. It was the question of, I want to know what is true and then align with whatever happens to be true, versus I've already been told the answer from an authority.
Exactly.
And that's a big, big part of that switch, whether it was cult, whether it was Mormon church, is being able to look at things with your own brain, build that trust, and know that you can find an answer outside of someone telling you the answer.
And that's kind of, there's almost a bit of irony to that about trusting your brain when we're talking about you believe a thing that may not be true. But if I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're saying that you, within your own brain, you can fight that aspect to just give in because it's easier if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. So an example of this is that my dad found me when I was in college, when I still believed this whole cult story. And I was terrified because I was always told that if he ever found me, I'd be instantly killed. And so I'm scared. I call my mom. I'm there at BYU and I'm like, my dad has found me. Like, what do I do? She's like, don't go home. There might be Satan worshipers in your house ready to kill you. So I'm like calling my roommates. I'm like, I'm sorry, I never told you this, but there might be dangerous people in our house. I'm like, lock the windows, lock the doors. I'm sure I freaked them out that day. But what my mom did is she picked me up and she took me around to all of these different police stations so that I could tell them, rehearse this sort of cult story of like, my father is the leader of a satanic organization and he's found me. And there was a big switch there because my whole life I had been told the story of this cult and that I was in danger. I had been told it from an external place and believed it. And this was the first time that I was sharing it with my own words, with my own voice. And in that moment, there was this realization of like,
did I just
whoa,
say
this
that?
sounds crazy. Like, is this true? Like, I hope it is, because if it's not, like, that would be a big deal to say this about someone. And so a neuroscience principle that is so important in this waking up process to whatever truth we're coming to is to share our stories and speak with our own voices, where a different part of our brain, our prefrontal cortex, that has the ability to question things, versus the habits that we just rehearse as truth in our brains from a lower part of our brain doesn't get examined. So, fun neuroscience hack in finding truth.
Yeah, I love that. And it goes along with my one of my life mottos. I got a tattoo over here that says, believe nothing except that anything is possible. And as a skeptic, I feel like that is a good way to approach things. And again, using that aspect of trusting your own brain to see, like, okay, I don't have to give in to this. I can question myself and trust my own brain. So let's go to beautifully said. Kelly said, was it the cult, was it connected to the FLDS, the fundamentalist cult, with that guy that had that compound?
Great question. So no, different thing. There are quite a few cult-ish groups that have come out of the Mormon Church. And one is like the FLDS, fundamentalists, Latter-day Saints. They're the ones who kept doing polygamy when the other part of the main Mormon Church had to stop doing polygamy to be an official state in the United States. And so, yeah, different cult, but same sort of umbrella.
Different, but same. Yeah, I'll hear that one. Carl said, leaving Mormonism is less pressure because they do not believe in hell, correct? There's a higher heaven and then a lower realm where sinners go, but it's not hell.
So I don't know that I would say it's less pressure, because there's bigger pressure in other ways. But in that aspect,
the social pressure.
It's not like you're leaving so you're going to burn in hell. It's like you're leaving so you're eternally separating yourself from the people that you love that are loyal to the Mormon Church, and you're not able to make progress after this life. So yeah, it's like different stages of heaven. It's a little better, if you want to put it in that term, in the Mormon Church. But yeah, absolutely, there are different pressures.
Interesting. So I don't know about you, but I didn't have any, I had my own religious trauma and whatever, but it was, normal Catholic religious trauma, and nothing with priests or anything, just, the guilt and all that stuff. Like, I remember one time after, I guess it was penance or must have been penance, or one of the sacraments, and they gave us a little bottle of holy water. And, I just kept it on my dresser. And one day I was mad at my mom for something or another. I must have been 10, 12 years old. And I asked God for something, and it didn't come true. So I took that bottle angrily. I went to the bathroom. I was like, God doesn't even love me. And then for like the next week and a half, I felt so bad. About it. And it's little things like that once, I personally didn't have, a come away from Jesus moment. It was more of a slow thing over time, and just kind of realizing things here and there and being like, I don't think I believe that so much anymore. But once I was fully in that atheist camp, for sure, I had my militant atheist phase where I felt like, I had to, talk, any Christian be like, oh, you're stupid for believing in a sky daddy and this, that. Did you have that type of experience where coming out with all that horror, you're like, that wasn't even true?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I would wake up in the middle of the night, just terrified, thinking of the question for the first time in my life, what happens after we die? Like, I had never considered these questions because I'd always been in a structure where if you start wondering or questioning, you just shut that down. Like, God did it that way for a reason. Don't think about that. It would be a sin to keep on considering it. And so I'm flooded with all these questions that I know, like my daughter, she started asking this stuff and she was 4 or 7, like these are young people questions in a lot of times. And I went through a really rough phase where I was just like, what is the meaning of life? Maybe it's all meaningless. Like, yeah. So it was a bumpy ride.
Yeah, I remember one of your TikToks was talking about when you would go to just like a Starbucks or something. You're like, how are you all doing this? We're all gonna die. And that's actually a beautiful thing, that we all can go through that and come out the other side and realize like, oh, okay, yeah, we are all gonna die. There is no purpose to anything. It's just, chemicals and electrons and physics and all that stuff. But we're here, so we may as well have a good time. That's how I was able to get out of that militant, angry phase and start to come into just, this is how I live. And I don't need to hate anybody. I don't need to take anybody, away from what they believe. Again, going back to the political realm, like, okay, if you want me to be praying and this, that, whatever, we could talk about that. But in terms of the values, personally, I see a lot of other political things that need our attention. And the divide with people. Do you believe this thing, or do you agree with me because of this reason, or do you agree with me because of that reason? I feel is silly. And I'm hoping that talking to people like you can show that there's more to that, connecting to whatever is out there than just one particular ideology, one particular book, one particular way to go. That it's out there. I believe that it's out there, and we don't need to call it a specific thing. And people don't really like that.
I can totally appreciate that. And I think from a very religious Christian perspective, there are very valid reasons to listen to people's stories that don't believe in you, don't believe in the same things as you, to interact with people different from you. Because if you know what you believe is true, truth cannot be threatened. So there's no harm in being with someone that doesn't believe like you, or having a conversation in that. And if what you believe is true, it will strengthen your faith, and you will have a deeper understanding when you have the contrast in that conversation. And you will have your faith strengthened in ways that it can't when you have a group of everyone believing the same way as you. So I think whether you're in faith or out of faith or have a label or not, the diversity of people in your life strengthens who you are and what is worth keeping in what you believe.
Absolutely agree. And that's, shout out to the Discord members. We do have a Discord server where that is the goal. This is, I'm trying to make the channel work and all that stuff. But really what I'm trying to do here is build a community and have people understand that there's different ways. If Christianity works for you, great. If you want to go with the science behind the woo, I love that line and I am stealing it. Can you talk a little bit about what that is? What kind of woo-woo stuff do you like, and what kind of science have you seen behind it that's made you feel comfortable in like, yeah, this is something that works?
Yeah. So neuroscience is a thing that I love. It's been an interest of mine for a long time, but it literally saved my life. Like, understanding my own brain and having a relationship with my brain that could evolve saved my life. And so I'm grateful to those principles. And it's interesting to see some of these woo-woo things, like manifesting, for instance, is something that can be seen as a very spiritual, very magical, mystical woo-woo thing. But so many of the reasons that these kinds of practices have real results and are very effective is because of the neuroscience principles behind it. So I'll give you a quick example. There was a study that came out where people identified if they felt like they were a lucky person or not a lucky person. Then they had them do this activity where they were supposed to count how many pictures were in like a magazine. And for the people that thought they were not lucky, they were going through and they were counting all the pictures, and they had a lot of error, right? It's like you don't always count right. And for the people who thought they were lucky, they opened up the magazine and there was a big text in the magazine that said, there are 42 pictures, stop counting. And they would just close it and they'd be like, there are 42 pictures.
Yeah.
All of that is because, go on.
Did you see that on the that's Diary of a CEO podcast with that woman?
Yes, she mentioned the study as well, which is great. It's such a great example of the neuroscience behind why this works, because what that is called is your reticular activating system. It is the part of your brain that finds evidence for what you already believe and suppresses evidence for what you don't. So if you want to manifest something and you focus on that and you get into the emotion of that and you have ways to keep on revisiting what it would be like to have that in your life, it's not, you can believe it in some mystical way where it comes into your world, but you can also understand that because of how your brain works and the reticular activating system, your brain will find evidence and resources and opportunities that are going to bring what you want to in your life because of how your brain works. So that's an example of how the neuroscience behind the woo.
Yeah, and just by believing that you're a lucky person, that was the thing, right? If you believe you're lucky, if you believe you're unlucky, then it's not necessarily that manifestation is a physical thing. I mean, again, maybe some people believe there's some aspect, I don't know, but it's not, whether it is or not. That's the point I think that we're making here, is that the idea of focusing on a task and having a different mindset can have have effects on how you work scientifically, and not because of there's a thing and whatever. And if you want to believe those things, okay, great, but how then are we ever going to really understand the science behind the woo if we just stop at the woo? That's kind of
and
where I
having
have
both is great, right? Like stacking those things. So you can think of it as a physical thing. You know, you can think of the quantum physics behind manifesting. My focus is the relationship with the brain. So I see the neuroscience principles of why that works. But if something works, there are lots of reasons why it works. And whether you know those reasons or not, it still works. You can nerd out or just enjoy.
Yeah, and that's something that, as I'm going through this journey of trying to be in the political space and talk about the influence of religion and the influence, more specifically morality. That's really where the rubber hits the road, is that people don't necessarily say, "Oh, you're an atheist, so you must be a bad person." It comes down to, okay, well, where do you get your morality from? How can, and if, okay, maybe you're the anomaly, but good for you. How then do we turn that into something for other people that aren't just going to, make the government their god? And that's the tough part. And I'm starting to get, I'm starting to have more and more respect for the aspect of, maybe story is the wrong word, because we watch a lot of Jordan Peterson and he kind of overplays that. But the idea of having a shared myth. And actually, I think I have, if you want to check this out, I have another TikTok from this woman who you may or may not have seen before. It seems like she's in a similar space as you. What is her thing? I always forget. No nonsense spirituality. Check her out on TikTok. I met with so let's see what you think of this.
Where I think atheism goes wrong. I met with my mystic teacher over the weekend, and some of you were very disappointed and thought it was very woo-woo of me.
So the comment says, this seems kind of woo-woo for you. I appreciated that you've sought knowledge and insight without relying on things like this. I'm having trouble reconciling this with your usual stance. So she's probably talking just about exactly what we were just saying.
And this is sometimes where I think that atheism has too high of a wall against things like, spirituality and religion. The reason I can be pro-mysticism, even though I'm very critical of religion, is mysticism is just the focus on experience. And I do think sometimes atheists, including myself, have been too limiting as far as what could be experienced.
I like that word. I'm definitely going to be using mysticism and mysticist a lot more.
I love the experience of walking into cathedrals, even though I don't believe in God or the religion that created it. I love the experience of labyrinth walking, even though I don't believe anything supernatural is happening. It is very interesting to dance the whirling dervish with Sufis, even though you don't believe in God, just at the level of experience, to the point that even Sam Harris has done that, and he's more of an atheist than I am. It is an interesting experience to read scripture and holy text and see it as mirrors to different parts of you, even if you don't believe that that scripture was inspired by God.
Shout out to calls, frosted tips, and I love diversity, except Islam. Don't trust people who don't eat bacon. Come on, man. We're being nice. Remember, attack ideas, not people. Welcome.
Or has ultimate truth in it. It is an enjoyable experience to sing Christmas carols like Richard Dawkins does every year for Christmas. to just sing with people. It is a very interesting experience, and one I think most people should experience once in their life, to do psychedelics. Does that mean that you left your body or you met God? No, but it's a very interesting experience to have. It is an interesting experience to look at religious art and see what they were pointing to when they were pointing to something sacred. It can be fun with girlfriends to flip over a tarot card, even though you don't believe that anything as magical is going on, and just use the symbolism to talk more deeply about your life. It can just be an enjoyable experience. Religion
Sometimes
is
things
the
are-
thing that says, because of this experience, therefore, this is the true God. This is what you should do. This is what you have to wear. This is what you have to eat. These are the days that you have to worship. We don't have to do any of that. All of that is bullshit. But if you only expect
Bullshit.
people to just like read science journals, even though I'm very pro science, you're almost cutting people off of a lot of experiences that are worth having. For me, for example, I don't believe in baptism. I don't believe in priesthood.
I mean, she goes on to give some more examples there, but
any-
how does that hit you?
Yes, she's great. I follow her. She's fantastic. And it's so important to look at the real experience that we have. Like, we are human beings. We are living through this brain. We are living with this body. And you can believe whatever myth serves you best. But when it comes down to it, we're trading the days of our life for some sort of experience. And I know that some of the most beautiful experiences that I have had in my life are through being open and trying something new and being outside of my comfort zone and finding out what something is like that I haven't experienced before. And so I think whatever we believe that might cut us off from something that could really grow us and serve us, it's probably something to examine.
Beautifully said. And Carl is coming in hot. Said Asian chicks are hot. We love you a long time. Oh, and of course we get a treat for Morty. Thank you very, very much. Every donation comes with a treat. Thank you, sir. The aspect of finding more than, like she said, just reading science stuff. That is a very similar to, you guys out there talking about, well, the culture war issues are silly and stupid. Why don't you talk about foreign policy and this and that? The idea that people don't necessarily want to hear about the ins and outs of what's going on in this country or that country. Most people don't have much time to care about anything that doesn't directly touch them. And so bring it back to the spirituality aspect of it. My big question is, if we want to, if there is a God, the goal should be to get as close to God as possible. And so I always use my hands and put, let's say for the sake of argument, that God is something we will never be able to understand. So God's up here. And right now you can use Christianity, Islam, whatever it is, or other woo-woo spiritual practices, and you can get here. How do we know that through scientific endeavors that, okay, maybe we can't ever get there, but we're here now, maybe we can get here? And we're again, as no nonsense spirituality was saying, we're blocking ourselves off from certain experiences. How do you feel about that?
So, quite honestly, how I feel is that any God who is a powerful God has the ability to be understood. Yep. So if we've got a God all the way up here that is impossible to understand, I think that it's more likely that if there is a God, it's one that has the power to be understood. So we might be on a journey to try to be more divine and understand that. But whatever is true, whatever is real, I believe also has the ability to take a step closer to us and to be a teacher and to be someone or something that can bring us into a better understanding.
More interesting. I think that is, I completely agree. I think that, that's a, you often hear about divine hiddenness, and people will talk to me and say, oh, well, you just keep trying and maybe you're not open, and just open your heart and do this and do that. And I'm like, what if, is it possible that I've done all I can do and God just decided no? And if you're going to say no, then what else can I do here? And so that idea that if there is a God, that God should be able to take a step closer. I definitely agree. Shout out to Not VLT. Welcome to the party. Hey, do your thing, brother. Do your thing. Nick says, are you familiar with the Myth Vision podcast? I think you guys would like Derek. He's the channel creator. I've never heard of them.
Yeah, good to know. I have found so many cool creators and resources through sharing the story, because this is how I grew up, but because I hadn't shared the story, I never heard people reflect back like, oh, have you heard of this? Like, I went live with Knitting Cult Lady the other day. She's amazing. I'm reading her book now. There are some great, I'm reading a book as well called The Dance of the Dissonant Daughter. And that is phenomenal. It's this journey from Christianity into coming to terms with the divine feminine and how that all goes together. So some really cool stuff. So thank you. I always appreciate the suggestions of like who we should know about. So thank you.
Shout out to Myth Vision Podcast. We will definitely check you guys out. Nick's always got some great suggestions. Come on, man. We're not going there. What was I about to say? I had a question. I had it there. Give me a second here. When you are going back to when you were a little bit younger, can you talk a little bit more about the experience of when you had to move around a lot? Because you would say, the story was that your father was with satanic child hunters, and they were coming to kill you, and so you had to move around a lot. Were you moving around a lot, like within the same area, or were you going like completely different places?
So it was usually within an hour or two away from where we were, but yeah, it was in the middle of the night. So how it would happen is that we would get like a call. And remember, this was not when there was caller ID or like, imagine the past.
Yeah, right.
So you don't know who called, right? So there would be some call that we didn't recognize the number. And my mother would have some revelation from God that was the cult or the Satan worshipers that found us, and that we would have to just move. So it was like middle of the night, going somewhere else, and just leaving all of my friends, like in the middle of the year. This happened so many times where like you're halfway through a school year and you start making friends and people know your name, and then you just... we just disappeared. And I met some of these friends later on, like, where I disappeared in 4th grade and then I came back in like 11th grade. And people were like, where did you go?
Oh, man. I was in the same, like, I grew up, I was born and raised in the same school system from kindergarten to 12th grade. So I did not, and then I went to college, 45 minutes down the road. So I really, never had that type of experience. And I already had, issues fitting in and stuff like that. I don't know, you can't tell from on camera, but I'm really short. I'm 5'4". So that is, a common thing that came up. And I can't imagine just being the only experiences I had of being the new kid was starting kindergarten, starting middle school, starting high school, and then starting college. So that is crazy. King Nirvana said, did want to, so we wanted to ask about the bird on the egg, the bird on the egg. So from what I understand, you're saying that you already had the She Center logo, and then later you found the egg. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So if you see our logo now, it's like a gold wire frame, but it's this double image of a woman's face, but then also a bird. So it's like a double image. But the first version of that logo, the bird was blue. This was the logo that I created out of my own brain with a graphic designer. Yeah, exactly. So you sort of see how there's a double image there. So imagine the bird like all filled in blue, and that's like the focus of the first logo. And growing up, the idea was that things were triggers. So the Satan worshipers would put like secret messages in toys or in TV shows to like trigger the brains of children, especially those like me who had been abused, and then it would break your brain into 1,000 different personalities and you would be under the control of Satan. Like it was a big deal thing. So my dad, because he had his kids kidnapped away from him and he couldn't get in touch with us, he would just keep on every year, every birthday, every Christmas. he would send gifts to like this PO box, which is the only way that he knew how to send things to. And that was all filtered through my grandmother. So I never saw these gifts. I never knew about them. And one day I accidentally found like the gift stash that was in our garage because they'd kept all of these presents away from my brother and I. And they were like, no, don't look, like that's triggering. It's going to break your brain. Those are from the cult. And so I was so terrified of so many just common kids' toys, like, you know, those little like Hot Wheels cars or whatever. I would like leave my friend's house if they had them around because I was so afraid, because I'd been told that those were like Satan-made toys.
So that sorry to jump in, but I'm not very familiar with the makeup of Utah. Is it that there's like a lot of Mormons, but it's just kind of part of the community, or is it more like it's all Mormons and there may or may not be somebody who lives over in that house on the corner and everybody knows that's the non-Mormon house?
Yeah. So where I grew up, it was like all Mormons, you all go to church together. There are churches like every few blocks because there are so many Mormons that you're going to church with the people that you live around.
They do like to reproduce.
There you go. And then there's the people that aren't Mormon that you don't really get to know because they're few and far between and you're not really supposed to talk to them and they don't go to church with you. So that's the community we grew up in. But the blue bird on the egg story is that one of the gifts that my dad sent me was this green egg that was made out of jade. That's why it was green. And it had this hand-painted bluebird on it. And when I told Gma that I got back in touch with my dad, who she had always told me I would be instantly killed if I found, but she switched her tune and she was like, oh, good. She's like, oh, well, he gave us this gift and I've kept it all these years because it's like the nice, beautiful thing. And she's like, I thought you might want it. And I looked at that and it was so similar to the logo that I had designed. And he'd given that to me when I was a little kid and I never knew about it. So
do you happen to remember which TikTok you showed that in? I know it was a little bit later. If you don't, I was just looking for it.
Yeah, I could probably scroll and find out, but I don't know it like right off the top of my head.
Do you know the?
Yeah, it would be a while away.
All right, but I mean, it's an egg and it's got a beautiful little bird on it. That brings up the question of what it was like to finally meet your dad and realize, or actually, I guess let me back up a little bit. And what was the chronology of you understanding that dad wasn't bad, that the cult is not true, and then to building a relationship, and how was that going with him?
Yeah. So one thing about programming, whether it's cult programming, whether it's oppressive religion, whether it's patriarchy, whatever sort of programming that we have and we're operating from, even if you intellectually know it's not true, your body or nervous system doesn't usually catch up to it. And unless you intentionally do that. So I intellectually knew that the cult that I grew up in wasn't true, but I was still terrified of ever seeing my dad, because what had been wired in my nervous system my whole life was, if you ever see this person, that is the last day you will live. Like, so I sat on the information of knowing the cult wasn't knowing how I was raised, knowing that the whole story around my dad wasn't true for a long time before I took action. And the way that I found out, go on.
And sorry to jump in, but I think that's an important thing there, that there is a dissonance between when you can internally be like, okay, whether it's starting to question things or getting through that process and be like, maybe I believe it, but I'm not really sure. And then the time when you're ready to accept that and project is the wrong word, but to place that, to map that new perspective on the world, and then even another step when you're ready to tell people that you're thinking about that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like, for instance, I don't know how you would feel these days with what you know now, but if you broke a vial of holy water in an angry way, it's interesting to think, like, would you still experience that guilt? Maybe, maybe not. But we all have things that we intellectually know, we morally we don't agree with. We don't think that's a thing you should feel bad for, but we still feel bad for it because that programming is still running. And so that process is so important to really deprogram from wherever we've come that isn't serving us. And that can be in like having the same patterns in your relationships that aren't serving you over and over. It's because you're running an old program. Mm-hmm. So I found out as I started questioning when I was an adult, like I was already in college, I was already married with a child, and I started asking questions. And I ended up going and finding the boxes of evidence, as I was told there were. And there was no evidence of any abuse, nothing matched up with a story that I'd been told. But there was a big, thick packet that was training for police officers on recognizing satanic symbols. And I start flipping through this. And it's like, oh, Satan worshipers baptize people in blood instead of water because they're doing everything opposite. And they, break bones and heal them with the power of Satan and, put needles in people's eyeballs. And as I flipped through every one of these things in this thick packet, I had been told had personally happened to me. And it was like Jima and the cult members that created the story pretty much looked through this packet and then created the story from that. So there were very clear signs that it was not true. And that's how I came to know of the truth and the lies that I'd been told. But then it took a while to take action, and I needed to do some deprogramming before I felt like safe enough to reach out to this man that I didn't know at all. That was my dad.
Yeah, I would bet there's a lot of, from the little things of like, what do I say to, much bigger, how do I feel about this? And what do I want out of this? And so then what was first contact? What was your first meeting? Like, how did that go?
Yeah. Oh man, that was one of the most special, amazing, wonderful days of my life. So I ended up finding an email address for my dad. And I emailed him. He's been looking for his kids for 25 years. He's never been able to contact us. And then one day he just finds an email in his inbox that just says, this is your daughter, Lydia. And yeah, he's like, is this true? Is this real? Like, I've been looking for you for 25 years. Yeah, no, good question. Like, why did they keep the gifts from your dad if they didn't want you to have them? I don't know. I found them one day, like in the garage, and then there were like the more valuable gifts that Gmod kept. But it's a good question. I don't know. Maybe they were selling them on eBay.
Yeah, hey, you gotta make money somehow, and because you were saying that well, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because we have so many questions, but the the money making aspect. But thank you so very, very much, Funk Master General, the new sponsor of the stream, and of course a treat for Morty. Thank you so very, very much, sir. King, can you do me a favor and get a timestamp link in Discord so I can pull that up really quick? I really appreciate that, or just the link, either way. Thank you. So so how did you, so you're talking about
like meeting my dad.
Yeah. How 25. I am I don't have any kids. I've never been married or anything, but again, a lot of people here are, and just the idea of parental rights for men, and the how common it is for men to just not be able to be with their children. I can only imagine. I can't imagine what that must have been like for him to finally like, my daughter's here.
Yeah. I was still really scared. Like, I had created a separate email that wasn't connected to anything real because I was like, what if I email my dad, but he is part of a cult? I intellectually, again, knew this wasn't true, but I still had all of this fear. So after interacting with him, even over email, I was like, oh, this is a really wonderful, sweet, loving person. It's like, this is a dad that has missed his kids. So what's wild is that I emailed him within a few months of him moving back to the United States, because he had been in Taiwan, where a bunch of my family is. So he had just come back, and we ended up living just 5 hours away from each other. So one day we drove and met in the middle at a Starbucks in a town that neither one of us had been in. And the whole drive there, I remember looking out the windows and seeing like the trees go by and just knowing that I was going to die. Like knowing this is the last time, this is the last day. I'm like soaking it up, like looking at my daughter in the rearview mirror and being like, I want to just enjoy this time because I am going to die. Everything in my body was telling me that this is the end because there is so much fear there. But I knew the truth was more important and that my dad is probably a fine, great person. And so we met up in the Starbucks and he turned around and he was this sweet old Chinese guy with glasses and a baseball cap on. And we both just like broke out into tears. And he took out this picture from his wallet that was crumpled and worn. And you can tell it had just been well loved. And his wife said, she's like, it was a picture of my brother and I. And she said, he has looked at this picture every day for 25 years. He like never gave up looking for his kids.
Oh, my heart. Oh my goodness. I mean, let's give a dilly to is it Mr. Knight? Is it Mr. Knight to your dad? Dilly to him. The fight and keeping up.
I know, just like even just mentally what one has to do to be okay after 25 years of not knowing where your kids are or if they're okay or if they're still alive. Like, you know, I'm a mother, like I can't imagine that. And that was part of getting in touch with my dad, is having my own children and having that perspective of like, whoa, how on earth, how on earth has it been for him to not be in contact? So, and he's great. We message all the time. He didn't end up being like, it would have been amazing if he wasn't this evil person. It's like, yeah, he's not evil, but he's actually like this really incredible, kind, like,
it's just not just not bad. He's amazing.
He's like way great.
Kelly Green, we're gonna come back right to this, but thank you to King Nirvana. Let's check out he did help us find the egg here. So let's see what you were.
I cherish this little egg.
An egg.
It is a jade egg.
That's always nice.
Egg.
If you know, you know.
Hand painted. Isn't that so beautiful? With remember this, blue bird on it. Given to me by a loving father that I didn't know about. And before I've ever seen this, I create a company that is based off of helping people with the principles that I learned from deprogramming from growing up in a cult. That company goes on to be the top 2% of woman-owned companies in the world. What is the logo that I created out of my own brain? It's a bird. A blue bird.
Beautiful. And it's just serendipitous, right? That stuff is amazing. Okay, Kelly Green has been waiting. Said, how did this come to be? Are the people teaching this part of the cult victims as well? Are they delusional? Or are they intentionally misleading people? That's a good question. Yeah, and there's still a bit of confusion on my part about like where is the top? Who is the first person to be like, okay, let's do that? Was it Jima, or is there somebody who influenced Jima to be into this?
Yes, so Jima has had a long history of loving attention and being the hero and the savior of every story. So she was Bride of the Year and Rodeo Queen. And so there's a bit of history of that. So my mother started getting these revelations from God, telling her all about the Satan worshipers. And so my mother was getting these God messages telling her all the details of like what had happened to my brother and I, about how the whole world works and is run by Satanists. And then my grandmother, Jima, was, I think, again, I'm trying to figure all this out myself, but I think she's like, oh, that's a great story to make a cult out of. And then she gained this huge following because there was all this sympathy for these poor children. I remember going to church and just making eye contact with these old ladies that would just burst into tears because they had the whole backstory of all the horrible abuse that allegedly had happened to us. And they would just come and like hug me, and I didn't know who they were. And they would just hug me and cry. Everyone got to have a good cry and feel real bad for the abuse that had happened, but it wasn't true. It didn't happen. So yeah.
And so that must be, I mean, I would imagine that your mom and your brother don't have a relationship with your dad.
Oh,
There's no
not at
Nicole, right?
all. They would, yeah, that is the thing that apparently they are terrified of. Like, they still have the same idea of like they will be instantly killed if they're ever in touch. And part of it is like, last time that I saw my mom, I did bring up, you told us that we would instantly be killed if I ever contacted my dad, but it's been like 10 years. So is this just like a really inefficient organization? Like,
No, we're just
nothing's
really, really
happening.
good at hiding.
So
right,
they
as
like
long as you
think
believe.
they're hidden. Like, if you Google their names, you can find their address. Like, they're not hidden. There's just this whole story of we're hiding out, and if we are ever found, if we ever slip up, then we'll be instantly killed. But
So Jima was she's the brainchild of the whole thing.
yeah, my mother like created the story, and then Gma
badass.
created the organization, the cult, the sort of organizing of the people around the story.
It's definitely not cool, but it is kind of badass. I gotta be honest. It's definitely not cool, but it is a little bit badass.
Agreed. And she is really badass. Like, I've learned some great things from her in ways of lots of important skills because people love her. Like, if we brought her on the show right now, people would probably be like, maybe it's all true.
Send her a link. Let's bring her on. There's always the charismatic leader, right? There's always the charismatic leader. So Carl asks, how do you feel about feminism? I only ask because you brought up patriarchy. Do you think equality is real or is it a myth? Interesting way to phrase it.
Well, the idea of, great question. Thank you for asking. The idea of equity is that we all have an opportunity to have what we need in life. And what we see, there's like a place from my heart, but then there's also just like the very clear stats and studies and science behind that everything suffers when women are taken out of the equation. So companies make 25% more if they have even just 2 women on their board. Women who are CEOs or in leadership, the more women you have in leadership, like the better the company does, the more diverse, the more effective ideas are. So what we're really seeing is that when women are taken out of influence and leadership, and when they are out of the structure, then everything suffers. So a better world for women is a better world for everyone. And it's interesting to think of the term feminism, because feminism is a belief that women have value as much as people who aren't women. And it's kind of like the idea of environmentalism, this idea of it being like a niche thing of I care about the environment. But the truth is like we all live on this earth and we must care about our environment if we want to keep going. So yes, I'm a feminist, but I would think that everyone who's following common sense would want to uplift women because it's half of the population. So
basically, she's a normal person. She's not a rad femme. A rad femme. They're the militant feminist. That's used so often. Again, going back to the political realm, that's often so often used to just be a trump card of just like, oh well, we're oppressed, so this. And it is very frustrating. And I can only imagine that more women who are about actual equality, that hey, we should all have the equality of opportunity to play sports, get jobs, whatever the case may be. And then it turns into this man-hating club. It's like, well, like, guys, we're trying to work this out. And it's definitely gone a little far, but obviously the idea of equality is something that, as you said, we should all that should be a default. Like, it should be weird if you want people to be treated differently based on immutable characteristics. So I think we're agreed there. I'm very curious. Can I ask about your brother? How old is your brother?
Okay, how old would he be now? 36 years old, I think.
36. All right, I just turned 35. So, and you have no. He blocked you now, right?
Yes. So I found my dad. Found out the cult wasn't true. Found my dad. I didn't mean for my family to find out, but they did in a ridiculous way. But anyway, they found out. So my family told my brother something that terrified him or enraged him, or some story where after us being very close our whole lives, he blocked me everywhere. I've had no contact with him in at least 12 years now. And I've tried in lots of different ways. So I don't know what he was told. It must have been something convincing. Yeah.
And you know, you hear so much about that, and you know, in these type of stories, I don't know if you followed the Leah Remini show when she left Scientology, but you know, the same types of tactics. And so with that being said, what is your position on, like, obviously, you know, everybody has the freedom of religion, all that good stuff, but when it comes down to you know, cults like the one you were in, or more, or something like Scientology, do you have a perspective on, like, should the government be involved and how those should work, or where do you stand on that?
Yes. So the thing is whatever authority we call to be involved in anything, you're trusting that authority to be good. You're trusting that authority to, like, you know, lead you in a way that's going to make sense. And so I think it needs to be an education of people individually for us to understand programming, for us to understand our own morality and our own truth and what really serves us. And it's also true that we haven't seen really big changes without the government's assistance with some sort of policy. So it's difficult to have a grassroots thing that makes, like, social change where it just stays grassroots. So I think that there needs to be everyone involved that's going to get us the outcome. And it depends on what that outcome is, of who's best involved. But we do really need ways to check the morality of whatever authority that we're looking to, because things can get out of control really quickly, because power oftentimes just goes for more power.
Yeah. And it's scary because, of course, you know, we have to have the freedom of religion. It's about what you're doing within that religion, I think, is the big thing. Agreed with you there. Shout out to Behave. Welcome to the party. So your dad sounds incredibly endearing and sweet. Can we hear his side? Does he try to make up for time lost? Do you love him back? Big questions from Behave.
Yeah, Behave. These are such beautiful questions. Thank you for asking. So yes, my dad is incredibly endearing and sweet. You can hear his side from, like, in depth. So the book that we are releasing soon, it's called Split, and it's a double memoir. So it's my story of growing up in the cult, and it's my dad's story of losing his kids.
Oh, wow.
And so it's beautiful. And that was all written from his side. It was just such a lovely thing. So yes, he absolutely tries to make up for lost time. We're in contact pretty much every day. He will send me these long texts of what he calls, like, his life philosophy, or like his life wisdom. And he's just trying to, like, give me all of the good stuff he's learned in his whole life, like, in these long texts. And I'm like, thanks, Dad. This is beautiful. My dad wrote a little book with, like, a story of, like, an alien world and the good things people were learning, as trying to, like, make his life philosophy even more accessible.
Yeah.
He's very heartfelt, and I absolutely love him back. And I don't know how all of that works, but I do feel like his love for me, even when I didn't know who he was, even when I was terrified of him, I believe that his love for me growing up was a benefit to me. And again, I don't know how that works, but I feel like there was an influence. There's an influence when we love people, even if they don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, you know, again, as the atheist, you might not think that I would be able to think that, you know, your emotions could have effects like that. But I absolutely do. I don't know what the mechanism is behind it, and I'm not going to label it. But what are you guys talking about? Friend John is 58 and a mommy's boy. Cultish? I don't know, but thank you very much for the super chat. Well, of course, get Morty his treat. Thank you, sir. That energy, definitely, whether it's energy or it's vibes or whatever the hell it is, I absolutely believe that it's out there. And again, I just believe that it's we're harming our own ability to learn more and to get a better understanding when we just stick to whether it's a particular cult or just, oh no, I know this is the answer, here it is, it's God. And I wish we could get better at moving away from that and learning to just as no nonsense spirituality was talking about, the mysticism, the experience of it. So do you, going back to a shout out to Nordic Born, said, hope you both have a very Merry Christmas. Thank you, sir. What was I going to say? Going back to the woo behind the science. If you were trying to convince somebody who was, let's say they're a fundamentalist Christian, not necessarily in the Mormon camp, but more like an evangelical Christian, and they're open to the conversation. So we're not saying that you're trying to convince them of something they don't want to be convinced, but they just happen to be talking to you, and they realize that you don't follow a particular religion, but you clearly are very spiritually full. If they were to come to you and ask about, like why you don't believe, or how would you approach that? Is the reason I ask is because I could get a little bit defensive. I'm getting better at it, but I could get a little bit defensive of that. So I'm curious how you handle those types of things.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. And that's natural for us to get defensive when we care about something, right? Like, okay, that makes sense. So a big part of what we do is executive coaching, and a lot of the coaching that we do is on communication. So I'm going to give you like some real solid stuff. Like these are the elements, like we do leadership training for the US Army. So communication is a big part of what we do. So if you have a conversation with someone and they're trying to convince you of something, and, wanting to know more about who you are, and you're exchanging ideas and you're different from each other, when you feel that defensiveness come up, the moment that you notice that, it can be a reminder to shift to curiosity. Because as long as we're in curiosity, then we're not in a place of judgment. And that feeling triggered or, feeling defensive comes from some sort of judgment, even a fear of somebody judging you. So when we go to curiosity and we start asking questions like, tell me why that's important to you, or, tell me a little bit about when you first believed that, or how does that serve you in your life? When we ask genuine questions out of curiosity, what happens is the answers to what we are curious about gives us common ground. It gives us a match where we believe in different, like we have different labels, but the values that we believe in, there's common ground there, and then we can build from that place. So going from that defensiveness to curiosity is one of the best tools. Even if someone's specifically like asking you a pointed question of why do you, or defend yourself, you can always turn that around and be like, great question. In fact, may I ask you? And then go right back to curiosity.
And I think that's where I need to get better, is that I will switch. Like, okay, how do you know? But then I'm just too revved up, and I know that I'm trying to be gracious. I just, religion or not, I guess I have a little bit of that brash personality, but definitely working on it. Another question here from Behave said, I felt terrified, or not a question, a comment. I felt terrified going into churches and other places of worship. I was born into the Jehovah's Witness sect. I still have phobias about certain religious traditions. And I didn't have some, super dark experience. It was just not good and frankly boring most of the time. So I don't have anything personally about this, but obviously going through what you went through, do you feel comfortable around other organized religion, or is that like, give me some more time?
Yeah. So I just, I want to acknowledge this experience. Thank you for sharing that. And if we go back to the neuroscience, it's Hebb's law of what fires together wires together. So whatever environment that you are in, if you have felt fear around that, if you go into a similar environment, your brain is going to read it the same way. So first, we can create a lot of calm and peace and neutrality around whatever we're afraid of when we just start wiring and firing together new things in our brain. So that association is something that can absolutely be worked through. That's part of the deprogramming process. And for me, there are things that I absolutely would have been terrified have been terrified in the past, but I've wired and fired new things together so that I don't feel triggered, where I don't have certain emotions come up, where I don't feel that fear anymore. And that's an ongoing journey. But some of those big things where I literally couldn't do before are now just like, oh, it's Tuesday, like no big deal, because my brain has new connections around it.
And that's the work. That's the work that whenever I talk about it, you use the phrasing of deconstructing a lot. That's a common phrasing for this, and that's kind of what we are referring to. That just breaking it down, figuring out what exactly it is, and how do we feel about it. Shout out to Nordic Born, another Merry Christmas. Thank you, and of course a treat for Marty. There we go. We love our little overlord. He's the one who runs the show. I'm just here. That's I can imagine that it would be what you said about those neural pathways, rewiring those is very important. And so, going back to what I was saying about dumping the holy water and all that stuff, and you're saying, I don't know if you feel that way today. I absolutely would not care about some water because it was in a bottle with a cross on it. And that's not because I'm angry. That's not because anything except for the fact that I haven't been given a reason to think that water is any different than this water. I mean, this water's got bubbles in it. SodaStream, hit me up. I need that sponsorship. Said, pace yourself, Morty. Thank you, sir. That's 6 out of 15. Once Lydia's gone, you get me on the floor, guys. I'm too skinny. So one of our YouTube goals is super chats, working towards a swole goal. What did I say for today? If they meet 15 light blue super chats, then I'm gonna do a 1 full minute plank. And I'm not looking forward to it, but I love it. Thank you. Let's get Morty his treat. Oh my goodness, here we go. Oh my goodness, guys. Thank you so very, very much. Oh, you guys are amazing. Thank you. Yummy. He loves it. Awesome. Thank you very, very much, guys. So what do I thought I gave him that one. All right, well, I got you. Don't worry. There we go. Straight from Carl. Behave said, how do you talk to your daughter about faith and non-faith? Great question.
Behave, you got such great questions. I love it. Oh, my love language is good questions, so I appreciate it. So I feel so joyous that I can say the words to my daughter, which were never said to me, which is, I don't know. I never heard that.
Some of the strongest, some of the most beautiful words in the English language. I don't know.
And what's beautiful is we get to have discussions. And, on the one hand, growing up in a cult and being a coach, my daughter gets a lot of great education on how to recognize manipulation and how to set boundaries and how to teach people how to treat you and all of that good stuff. So there's that there. And when it comes to her belief and her faith, it's so solidly her journey. Of course, she's influenced and, she loves us and we're, a family that's very close. But she really has been on this beautiful journey where she's figuring out what she wants, figuring out what she thinks, what feels true to her. And so it's more of a discussion and curiosity, like we talked about earlier. It's a curiosity of like, what do you think about that? And helping her to flesh that out versus this is the way the world works. If you believe something different, you're wrong. Like, that's just not how we do now.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the really big things that I like I said, I just turned 34 last month, 35, Jesus Christ, last month, and I really do want to have a family. I've been close with my dad for the last 10 or so years, but before that, again, nothing crazy, but we just didn't really have a relationship like that, and being able to build that and the notion of having my own family to then do that I love when I hear about good parenting. Not that I didn't have good parenting, but could have been better. I mean, Papa Led, is good. And so that's amazing to hear. And how much does she know about like the dark stuff? How old is she?
She's 14.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
our policy is if she's old enough to ask, she's old enough for an answer.
I like that policy.
So she knows a lot. She knows pretty much everything. Like, she also can look up my TikTok videos and watch for herself if she wants. So yeah, we're all very open. And I actually took her I went back to the cult. Like, I took my daughter back to Jima and my mom because I wanted her to know the people that she came from. And so she knew the background, and she's very solid in her own sense of self and has a good evaluation of things. So yeah, there's nothing that we really hide from her. There are things that are age appropriate, but again, if she's old enough to ask, she's old enough for an answer.
Yeah, I think that's a very good policy. And again, just like I whenever I see good parenting, I just love it. So dilly to you. Especially coming from a situation where maybe you didn't have the best parenting situation. Dilly to you. King Nirvana here is asking if you've ever had a paranormal experience and to trust him. I trust you, brother.
Okay, well, I've requested trust. What very, very confident. So are you asking are you saying I should ask my daughter if she has, or if I have had a paranormal?
No, have you ever had a paranormal experience?
So, I mean,
I think, right?
You can define paranormal in lots of different ways. I will say that meditation has been a really beautiful part of my life, and a way that has really strengthened, my brain, and something that we teach our clients. And it was during a meditation that I felt very strongly. I haven't had an experience this intense in my life, but it was almost like I audibly heard a voice say, "Your dad is going to die and you will have never known him."
That's scary.
And it was that realization that came from, I don't know, my own brain or some external source, who knows? But I got that message, and that was the thing that got me in action despite being scared. So yeah, I'm open to the experience of being a human. We can label things as paranormal or science or whatever. There's a lot of different angles to look at things, but yeah.
He says, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I personally, I know I wasn't asked, but this is my show. I'm going to give my own goddamn opinion. Yeah, I don't really believe that paranormal is a thing. Things either exist or they don't exist. So either it exists and it's just natural. So people say paranormal if it's a ghost or if it's an alien. If those exist, then those are part of nature. So it's just a thing. It's not paranormal. It's just normal. Behave with another one here. So would you ever ever legally go after your mother and Jima? Can you put them in a psych ward? I don't think that would be possible, but
I mean, these are interesting questions. So one thing that I have thought of is that my cult leader grandmother is just, controlling everything that is happening. And at some point she is not going to be here anymore. She's old. None of us live forever. And there's going to be some sort of house of cards falling ripple effect. There's going to be something that happens when she's not supporting everyone as she always has. So there is some responsibility that I don't know where my responsibility falls, but there's going to be something that happens there. As far as I know, you can just put people in a psych ward.
Yeah,
I would love to understand better what's happening just psychologically, because on the one hand, you can think these are people that were just bad to us as children and wanted to terrify us. But what's a much more benevolent view is that there's some stuff mental health wise going on here, and that came into play. So, I believe that people can always do better, but I also believe that people are dealing with their own circumstances. So it's hard to know there. Legally going after them, anyone can sue anyone for anything. Sure. So I could. And like we were saying earlier, you choose how to spend the days of your life, and being in that energy of trying to go after someone, it just doesn't feel as good as building and creating a better life for the people who want to have a better life. So that's where my stance is. But yeah, like you're saying, revenge is a wasted energy. Yeah.
Master is always got it.
But that feeling is valid of like wanting justice or wanting something to be done. And, that's definitely been something to work through.
So why would you not expect your mom to take over when Gmom passes?
So my mother doesn't have like life skills and experience. Like she hasn't ever really held down a job. She's never been in a relationship for a long amount of time. And so I know that the plan is when Gma goes, there's going to be some sort of inheritance that I'm sure I won't see any of. But I know that the way that my mother has handled money growing up, like she would get a little bit of money from my grandfather, for instance, and she would just spend it all instantly instead of like feeding her kids for the next 2 weeks. So I know that her relationship with money is not one where I would think that she's going to, be financially responsible or, physically responsible for anything that's happening. So yeah, I hope that things get better.
Yeah, so Amon Vo here is saying, possibly the cult splits apart or turning into splinter factions. Ideally, it would just cease to exist in total, but mental illness with those beliefs will be a tough nut to crack. But remember, Amon Vo, as we always talk about with dogma, there may not necessarily be any. I mean, I'm not saying there is or there is not, but just because there is dogma, that doesn't mean that there's mental illness. There is and Lydia, maybe you can speak to this better than I could. I haven't really studied neuroscience since I was in getting my bachelor's, but the process of being indoctrinated is not. I mean, you could argue that it's similar to mental illness, but it is the brain working as it's supposed to work, just in a really screwy environment. And so, and again, maybe you are aware of more conscious or direct mental illness. But yeah, we always got to remember that dogma is not necessarily mental illness.
I mean, as human beings, we are very connected through story. It's how we understand our whole world. And the thing about dogma, religion, cults, traditions, whatever, is that it's story. And so we can get very connected to it, especially if we're in an environment where we don't have anyone questioning what we believe, or we don't have that diversity in our world. You can be very mentally healthy and just totally normalize believing whatever has never been challenged because your brain just accepts it.
Yeah. And I mean, bringing us back to the political world, look at, people on the other side of the aisle, what they believe, it's pretty crazy, but they're not mentally ill. They just believe things that have been normalized. And that is, why we try to normalize that. I don't know if you're comfortable. Totally cool. If you're not, if you want to share your political leanings.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So it really goes back to the core of what we see creates a better world. A better world for women is a better world for everyone. So I tend to support and be politically aligned with people who believe in women and support women, because I believe it's the very best chance that we have as a species, as a world, to be able to bring people together and bring people in. So people who respect women's choice and intuition over their own bodies, people who respect women having opportunity and don't have their rights taken away, people who uplift women's voices. And I believe that there are good people that can come from any sort of party, but I support people who support women.
Okay, that sounds like kind of a center left, not too deep in the weeds of it, but strong on the issues. Is that fair?
Sure. But I also just like with religion, I tend to not put a specific label on myself because whatever means, like whatever political label that you have, it's going to mean something different in 5 years, and it meant something different 5 years ago. And so I think it's important for us to, in our authenticity, say this is who I am, versus attaching ourselves. I mean, building community, it can be good to have a label because it's like, oh, we're thinking the same thing, right? Because we both have the same label. But I also think it's important to, operate from a place of authenticity. And I also find that people are more open to the message that I share if there isn't a label that they feel triggered by.
Yes. That and so I don't know if Thomas Sheedy's still here, but again, as an atheist, I as an atheist who does lean more to the right. You can see my MAGA hat right here. I didn't buy it; it was a gift, but I do love it. The aspect of wanting to have these extreme ideas is whether we're talking about MAGA, whether we're talking about atheism, you're exactly right. They elicit these very strong caricatures, if nothing else, and sometimes that is helpful. One of the ongoing conversations in what I would call my space, not my space, but my space politically, I kind of feel I was I voted for Trump. Obviously, I was calling myself conservative, but I don't like the Republican Party. I was a Bernie bro back in the day. I voted for Hillary, and so I just feel that the landscape is just changing, and that has a lot to do with why I want the right wing to be a lot more open to people who are not religious. I think that can help the Republican Party, or whatever it's going to turn into, be less of something that can be so easily caricatured into, oh, we hate women, we hate transes, we hate this, we hate that. And I obviously don't believe that is what's going on, but I absolutely can see how people can get those ideas.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important for us to listen to each other and express ourselves as individuals versus I'm putting my stake in the ground and this is the label that I am part of. Because what it does is that it keeps anyone who feels strongly from listening to you, because now you have that label. And there's a place for labels for sure. But psychologically, you will be more listened to and have more agreement if you can be like, I'm an individual person and you're an individual person. Let's talk about what that means to each of us versus this label against that label.
Yeah, I think when you use the labels as a shorthand to get to the a different issue that you're talking about, where like maybe if you and I were talking about something political, I might call myself conservative, you liberal, just for the sake of, okay, even though I wouldn't necessarily be that. If you then want to ask, well, do you specifically consider yourself a conservative? Okay, well, now that's a different conversation. And so there's a balance of when when to lean into the labels, and when to be more open about just, hey, I'm me. These are my ideas. I don't follow anybody. So we've got an interesting request from my boy Guamtech. I don't know how much time you have, but he's got a bunch of questions he would like to come on up, and he is a magical thinker. I really like the way he thinks. So if you've got the time, I'll drop him the link and bring him up.
All right, let's do it. I'm open.
All right, you got the link there, buddy. Guamtech always has very interesting perspectives, because I consider him an atheist, but he has a lot of the woo type thinking in there. So we'll get his. He's definitely not trans, but he's just kidding. Anything else we got here before we got Behave said, does your daughter have similar insecurities like you, or have you stopped the cycle of self-doubts and perhaps PTSD? You should be up here. Behave.
Yeah. I have done a lot of personal work, and this has been my life's mission to help people to deprogram from the structures that they've come from. So I'm very grateful that I get to enjoy a lot of stability and mental health and happiness and all of that. And, I've taught that to my daughter. And then she's also just who she is naturally. And who she is naturally is she is so confident. And she loves the spotlight, and she's an amazing singer, and she's super mature. So it's fun to see who she is, but then hopefully I've, passed on good things to her, but we all have our individual insecurities for sure.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Hello,
Shout
my
out to our
friend.
Tech. Welcome to the party. I'm gonna be honest with all y'all. I would not have dropped the link for everybody, but I know Guam Tech's got some good stuff for us. So please, sir. What?
I appreciate it, man. Hey, Lydia, I want to say, man, like, I really appreciate just your story and what you're doing in general. Like, it seems like you have a lot of the same ideas that I have towards, kind of dealing with past traumas and whatnot. And a lot of what you're saying resonates with me. So I just really want to say that, first of all.
Awesome. Thank you, Grumtech. Like, I received that. Like, that's such a kind thing to say. So thank you.
So I hopped on because I do have a couple of questions that are a little bit harder to type out, and they're actually for my wife. She isn't really much of a screen person. She doesn't like being on the interwebs, so she gave me the permission to go ahead and ask.
Real quick, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Thank you for being supportive.
She does have a little bit of past trauma with her family that she deals with pretty much on a daily basis. It's nowhere near what you had to end up going through, but it does affect her in quite a lot of ways. That I know that from where she was when we first got together to where she is now, there's been a lot of positive change made, but I know that she still wants to do better, and that things still affect her to this day. I wanted to ask you just about some of the tactics that you used for yourself. I guess, first of all, just to be able to get to the point of acceptance on what had happened to you so that you would be able to actually move forward with your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And just please thank her for her very vulnerable and open question, and huge congratulations on all the progress that has been made, because there's nothing quite as naturally healing as time. And so that's really beautiful that you've had that journey together. What I would share is that it's really important to own your experience. And one way, especially with our, the way that our brains work, sharing story, because we are so story oriented as people, sharing your story in a raw, authentic way with someone that you trust is very, very powerful in that. So if you can find someone that you trust and just share out loud, and this is what I mean between, like, the difference between authentically owning your story versus just saying your story, right? So just saying it might be something like, well, I grew up in a hard circumstance, but it wasn't as hard as some people's, and like my parents were doing their best. So notice how there's all this justifying, right? There's very much this like, oh, I get it. If you're sharing it in a raw and real way, to share it in a way where you're being very open. Like, I grew up in a hard experience, and I know other people have had it harder, but I felt a lot of shame growing up. I felt a lot of sadness, and honestly, like, that's still there. Like, and this is just an example, I'm not saying this is anyone's particular stuff, but there are common patterns. Anytime that I lean into loving someone, I actually feel scared that they're going to leave me. And so I feel like there's this constant self-sabotage, like that sort of raw stuff where you're just so real about what has happened with someone that you trust, and to just be held without judgment. So in holding space for that person, you can say things like, that makes sense. That's totally valid. Please understand that I'm not judging you. What else do you want to tell me? Because when we go into like, oh, well, let me help you to not feel sad anymore, what we're actually doing is we're not justifying that person's feelings, and we're not seeing them as valid. And so that has someone bottle up. So number one, own that experience. The second thing that I would pass on is get into a community with people who can help you with those tools, right? Like, we have a Discord community as well. And, we have a membership where people can come and get coaching. It's very accessible. Like, once a week, we have a forum. So there's that growth where people can consistently be in that growth journey with somebody who understands how to do that, because it's not an intuitive thing. It's hard to guess how to feel better about your past, because it's something that almost feels sort of pokey. Like, anytime that you think of it, if it's hard, then we tend to just want to put that in a box. So those are the couple things that I would encourage her in.
Okay, thank you. And wow, that seriously, that's a lot of what we talk about all the time, to be completely honest. That's really great to hear that that is actually something that would be beneficial. I guess another question I would ask is, so I personally am a big believer in exposure therapy, to slowly acclimate to the things that make you uncomfortable in the first place. And it can have its drawbacks. I definitely understand that. And when it comes to trauma, sometimes it can be very hard to be able to actually move in that direction. But is there anything that you would say as far as being able to work up that courage to do some of what you were talking about, as far as, finding the community and being able to share things a little bit easier? And I mean, obviously you have to have good people around you to be able to facilitate that. But personally, would there be anything that you would say would help give the individual the courage to be able to do it?
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go on. So you're asking about in her work or in personal conversations?
I guess in personal conversations, just as far as, somebody who was trying to, get the help.
Yeah, no, this is a super great question. Okay, so quick little neuroscience sideline that'll make sense in all of this.
Love
so
it.
if you imagine you take a lemon and you like roll it, so there's like
That's
all the
gonna be full
juice
screen.
inside, and you cut it open, and then you've got like the juice coming out, and then you just take a big bite of it. You just bite the lemon. Can you guys feel that? Like you're feeling it
Kind
already.
of.
Like a lot of
Kind
times
of.
our body will react to even the idea of it. And this is why we love action movies or whatever. Like we're not
I want
actually
to chat if you
there.
felt that.
Yeah. And if I would have described it more, you probably would have felt it more.
Yeah.
And I
it
could
was
have
weird.
done something more crazy, but lemon. So that's the way that our brain works. Now, when you talk about exposure therapy, what's interesting is that if you're actually exposed to something that you're terrified of, oftentimes we will shut down, we'll go into a bit of a fight or flight where it feels re-traumatizing to be exposed. So something that we teach our clients is essentially a virtual reality exercise. Just like the lemon, you can imagine yourself being in a situation that maybe feels scary to you or doing something brave and courageous. And your body will go through the experience of having the same sort of thought patterns, the same sort of fear, but you can work through it in an environment that is safe, like your living room with someone that you love that is there with you. And so that is a way to expose yourself to something without re-traumatizing or having it be a traumatic experience, because the brain is not scared of what's familiar. And if we familiarize ourselves with it, then our brain has a different response. So a big part of what we do is we have a program to end eating disorders. We've helped over 1,000 women completely end their eating disorder. And that started with me. I used the principles of leaving the cult to have no more issues with binge eating, bulimia, anorexia, all the things that almost killed me. Wow. And so part of the principles we're talking about here is we'll have people think about being around foods that they feel like they can't be around, and they get to work through it in a way where it's like, oh, you can do it with your brain before you do it with your body. So it was a bit of a quick masterclass on that, but you can do a virtual reality exercise to help with that.
That reminds me of the fake hand experiment. If you've ever seen where, they, you lay your hand out and they have a fake hand, and then they'll do, they'll rub a feather on both, and then, they'll take a hammer and smash the fake one. But because you can't see your own hand, you only see the other one, then, well, that's too long. So, but yeah, it's wild how the brain can be rewired so quickly.
Totally.
Really
Mirror neurons is something to look up if you guys want to nerd out on that. When we see something happen to someone else, we have that experience.
It was what neurons?
Mirror neurons.
Mirror neurons.
Mm-hmm.
Where not? Well, we have somebody over on Rumble, Equality and Deference, because Vagina said she has very nice teeth. So I'm gonna assume that's you. Beautiful.
I had adult braces. I decided that I wanted teeth that, like, because we didn't have any sort of like support like that growing up, right? I wasn't like a braces kid. I wasn't even like a got fed regularly kid. So it was a gift to my adult self to get myself some braces and to be real comfortable in my teeth. So thank you.
Heck yeah.
Beautiful.
Treat yourself.
Treat
Yeah.
yourself. Hell yeah.
What you were talking about earlier, as far as the virtual exposure therapy, something that we've actually kind of implemented recently is a little bit of role playing. So coming in from my job that I do a lot of sales. You got to role play a lot of things if you want to be able to get good at it. And I kind of took that method and started seeing what we might be able to come up with some of her conversations that she really wants to have with family members and whatnot. And it does seem like it's starting to help. So what you're saying, like I said, most of what you're saying is like right up my alley. It's so crazy that you came onto the show and we're watching it. And it's like, oh my God, that's exactly what we're doing, or that's what we were talking about.
That's so cool. I love it. And yeah, it's a great supportive space. It's great to have people close to you that you trust and care about that can be supporting. And it's also great to have people that aren't in those roles to support, because we all have a lot of association with the people that we love. So I love that, you're coming here for answers and you're a great support. And yeah, sales, the psychology that goes into sales is I just honor all that you do there, because I've been down that path.
It's something. I'll definitely say that. I mean, and especially what you said as far as like, be curious. It's so hard to be angry when you're curious, when you actually want to know, when you can shift your brain to stop taking offense to things and actually want to know why it's being said, so that maybe you both can come to a conclusion. It's so crazy how much it starts to help you out, because you actually want to know, instead of just, oh, I'm just going to get the sale, or I'm just going to convince this person, or I'm just going to, get what I want from this person. It's you're both working towards something at that point.
Yeah, for sure. And finding the things that your brain has a hard time doing both at the same time. Like if you don't want to be judgmental, look in a direction with your brain like curiosity, where it's hard to be judgmental at the same time. It's a fun little neuro hack.
Yeah, it's awesome. Would I be able to ask before I hop off of here, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm hoping that some of the questions I ask can help anybody else up there.
Yeah, we're going pretty far. We don't want to take up your whole night.
Right. What's your Discord, and where could you be reached at?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for asking. So yeah, the link will be here, but if you go to theshecenter.org, then you'll be able to, there's a button right up front, that'll take you to resources, and that'll connect you to the Discord server. And that is completely free. We have a self-care challenge happening right now, which has been really fun and supportive. And we have an incredibly supportive community. So it's a lovely, lovely thing.
All that stuff right in the description, right below the video, if you're on your phone, wherever the stuff is on your phone. I haven't done many live streams on my phone. And thank you very much, Amon Defoe, dropping the link to the She Center. I actually do want to ask about that before you go. Guamtech, did you have anything else? Please. You've been asking great questions.
I mean, I could go on all night with questions, honestly, that I would have for you, but I don't want to take up too much of the show and everything. So I appreciate Lutch. Thanks for letting me come up and ask some of those personal questions. And Lydia, thank you for what you're doing. It sounds like you're definitely helping some people out there, and your story is awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thank you for your great questions and just all the support that you're sharing. It's wonderful. So thank you.
All right, Indie Film. I'll catch you around. Inside joke there. So yeah, can you before we go, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the She Center, what it's there, what it's for, what you guys do, and where people, well, obviously we have the links there, but what people can expect to find if they check it out.
Yes, absolutely. So the core of what we do is we help people to deprogram from patriarchy, deprogram from diet culture, deprogram from oppressive ways that they grew up. Language that is a little more accessible is that we do executive coaching, which oftentimes is deprogramming from a lot of these structures. We have a program that's called Empower to End Eating Disorders, and that's very much rooted in deprogramming from diet culture. And then we do retreats, live events, and we have our Discord community. So we're really here to a better world for women is a better world for everyone. So we usually speak to women in particular, but we have great men in our community as well. And, you don't need to be a woman to be in our community. So I just wanted to make sure that there was a welcome there. And that's really what we do. We have a book coming out called Thought Leader that is the principles and how we teach people to deprogram.
THOT or THOUGHT?
Yeah, so not like think. And then we have a book that's going to be out in just a few weeks. And go to the link. You can also get there from theshecenter.org, but it's called Split. And that's the double memoir that is a deep dive into my story and my dad's story. Yep, exactly. You got it there. So you can get updates, and pre-order should be up soon. But if you want to know more about the cult story, this is what you're going to get here. So yeah, we've got those two books, and yeah, it's really about having sovereignty and say and joy in our own brains and our own life, and knowing how to have a relationship with our brain that we can create a life that we really, really love.
Well, who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that? I got to thank you so very, very much for coming on here. I think this has been great. And I'm actually likely going to go through this with everybody again and really pick apart everything that we've talked about and how it feeds more directly into our overall message on this channel. But it's been amazing. And as Guamtech said, we can be going all day and night. But of course, we want to be respectful. So before we dim out, I know you were just talking about the She Center. But for anybody who didn't hear you in the beginning, throw you the floor, tell them who you are, what you do, and where can they find you.
Yes, I am Lydia Knight. I'm the founder and CEO of the She Center, and I'm a cult survivor doing exceptionally well. So we believe that a better world for women is a better world for everyone. So I took the tools that I learned from deprogramming from a cult, and now we take those tools to help people's lives be better. So yeah, that's what we do. And you can always find me always, I don't know if it's going to still exist next month, but as long as TikTok is still here, you can always find me there at Honest Storytime, which just started out as my personal account 2 weeks ago, where I'm like, I'll just tell some cult stories for the first time.
Not anymore.
Which is very fun. But yeah, I see all of those comments individually, at least now. I'm trying to keep up with them. So always reach out there if you have more questions. And yeah, it's wonderful.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so very, very much for hanging out with us and sharing your story, not just on your TikTok, but taking the time to come and talk to us and answer all our questions. Again, I don't know if you understand how helpful this is to me personally, and how much this is going to help me be able to figure out the way that I want to say things. And I want to pose and thanks for showing up to our cult. Thank you so very, very much. We'll get more of those treats, and we're almost at the swell goal, and we'll cover all of that once we let Lydia out of here. Again, thank you so very much. We will definitely one of us now. We will definitely have to get you back on. Again, very much appreciative of your time.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for showing up so authentically and supporting your community. And it's so wonderful connecting with all of you. So yeah, let's just keep on living better and better.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. You have a good night. Thank you so very much. All right, guys, we did it. So we got a treat here for Morty from Carl. Thank you. And of course, our boy Unwanted Bo. Thank you so very, very much. Guys, 4 more and I'm on the floor. 4 more and I'm on the floor. But that was great. That was fucking great. I really appreciate her perspective, and Quality and Deference over here like deprogram for the Patreon. What the fuck? But I get it. I get it. It's not about, always just having somebody who's gonna be like, oh yeah, we love MAGA and we hate feminism and we hate the transes and we hate this. Like, that gets boring. Let's talk about, more important things. Oh my goodness. Funk Master General, no question, no comment. Where's my applause? Just love of the game. We got Kelly Green with the $1 again. No question, no comment. Pure love of the Overlord. Luch needs a treat. You goddamn right. And again, very big thank you to Lydia. Yeah, come on, bro. It's about relationships. So she'll be back, and she didn't see, honestly, this Carl actually did us a favor by sending this out early. She didn't really laugh at it. She didn't really pay much attention to it. So that, and talking about deprogramming from the patriarchy and all that kind of stuff. Okay, maybe that's not her humor. So and then talking about our trans. Let's ease into the shit. Let's let her know that we're not raging lunatics, and that we are interested in having a conversation about her and her experience. And then if we build that relationship, then we can get a little bit close. Trust me, guys. I want to know whether it was a lamp or a stripper pole. But you got to build relationships. That's inappropriate. Come on, guys. We got to be respectful. I bet you did. I mean, it's just beef. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not going to be super tasty. I love them. Behave said, I tried turning away from God. I converted to Christianity and never want anything else. Free will is a blessing. Is it? I can say you're nervous beforehand. So I couldn't tell. Very seamless. That's the job, baby. That's the job. But yes, I was very nervous. I don't know if it was, the timing, and obviously I didn't know exactly where the conversation was going to go. But also the notion of, are we going to get into a situation where, we're really at odds on something, and then her being coming from religion, and then a lot of you guys being religious. I didn't know where I was gonna go. But it seemed to go well. Colin Deverin said, you want to be nice to the nice lady? Yeah, well, of course. Want to be nice to all the nice people. Yeah, bro. Year and a half already. Yeah. And again, once we build that relationship, she has that experience, she's gonna be more likely to want to come back. Respecting women is cool, dude. We can have the party for a little bit. We could do that. So we could either dip out now and do the after party, or if we're $6, yeah, right? $6 away, $2 and up, $6 away for a full minute plank. Let's see if we can hit it. While we're doing that, I did want to show you guys, in case you are not familiar, what we were talking about. We talked about curiosity, beliefs, rewiring your brain, all that kind of stuff. We were talking about the fake hand experiment. So before we do, before we head out of here, I do really want you to see that. Yeah, okay. I don't know if you saw it when I brought it up. At first. Oh, you were not gaslit. It was Behave that has a sleep. Oh, okay. Because she did say that she would wake up in the middle of the night after she was like sleep paralysis. What the fuck are you talking about? So yeah, good job making me look stupid. But hey. Well, it's $6 in the super chats, but each super chat is one super chat. So very much appreciated. Thank you. I'm close, but I'm not there. Oh. There we go. What is that? Where'd the count go? Hold on. Wait a minute. Is the count fucked up? Let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I don't know what happened. Oh, because we're over the time. That's why. We're over the time. That's why. But sucks for you. No, I'm just kidding. I will do it. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. Should I give him a treat for this one? Either way, thank you for out-sponsoring yourself and putting me on the floor, guys. You better pay yourselves. We are paying ourselves. Let's do it and get the our jam. Our jam. Are you ready? Are you ready to rock? I think I'm just gonna count. I think it was 90 seconds. Just give me 90 seconds. Y'all, it was 1 full minute and y'all didn't even hit the goal. Now you're pushing it. Now you're pushing it. You got 60 goddamn seconds. You doing good. You gotta go. Let's go. Stay going down, guys. And that's how we pay ourselves. Let's go. Who did it? Who paid themselves? Who paid themselves? Let's fucking go. Is that the end of the song? Perfect timing. No, I got my beautiful. I got the it's an old chair, but I got a nice little pad for my booty. That's what. Oh Jesus, what happened? So it's actually really nice. Beautiful, very sensual. Gay. As much now, I brush my teeth, I take showers and stuff. So, but there you go, clean Asmund. There you go. Nick said 30 for me. Gonzaga said 20 push-ups for freedom. There we go. I mean, I did take this from from the dumpster. Like somebody had it out there, and I'm like, that's mine, because I used to sit in this. This used to be my chair. So that is done. Now I'm comfy. I got the lean back, all that good stuff. Who else paid themselves? Shout out. So not only did we work out our minds, we worked out our muscles. The mind-body experience. That's what it's all about, guys. Yeah, I mean, this was really cool. I really do appreciate Lydia for taking the time. Oh, I wanted to show this thing, but yeah, I do really appreciate Lydia taking the time, hanging out with us, fielding our questions. She was here for almost 2 hours. Usually, I mean, you know me, I'll just fucking go. But a normal average person, and I told her about the private chat. I was like, hey, if you have a heart out, I can be a rambler, like, just let me know. And she was such a good sport. So thank you again, dilly to Miss Lydia Knight from the She Center. No, we are not. So yeah, everybody go check out the links in the description. Go check out Lydia's links. I'm not saying you got to become a feminist to do anything. Just check it out. She really helped us out here. So before we go, again, we were talking about rewiring your brain and rewiring how your neurons function. And so we can see here is this is the participant, right? So what? And there's a block here. So this, obviously, you could look, this is his actual arm. But he can't see that. He can see this fake arm. And so what the person, this guy who would be the fucking, what you call it? The doctor guy. I don't fucking know, but you know what I mean? So he'd be doing the test, right? So you can see he's rubbing a paintbrush on both. So he's looking at this hand and feeling the brush, even though that's not actually his hand. And so they do this and it rewires. Did you miss it? And usually this, let's see if we can get a slightly different one. Because usually it's not as, because like that guy just came in and did it. But usually it's just like, okay, here's a hammer. And I'm going to smash your hand now.
Oh, I have an experiment that we're going to do today. Is I'm going to train your brain to believe that this hand, this
is how it's supposed to be done. So you see, they put the shirt is looking similar. That's how it's supposed to be done.
You see, we've got this divider here. So right now you can kind of see your arm. You see the arm there. I'm going to cover over part of your arm. Now I'm doing that because your eyes talk to your brain, and your eyes tell you this is what's happening.
This is a much better setup.
So now, can you physically see your arm, your right arm here?
No.
Great. So I'm going to take these two classroom rulers. So we're going to.
And so again, the key is having the sensation. Now you're feeling the sensation on your own hand, but because you're watching this, your brain is rewiring. Oh, this is my hand.
Train the sensations. You feel the rulers touching your.
Yeah, that's how we're doing this one.
Hands, because it's now becoming one with your mind. That this right hand is your right hand. Right? You are believing that as I drag the ruler on your right hand there,
it totally
that it is
feels.
in fact in your brain, your right hand.
Well, and again, that part's not surprising because you are feeling a ruler being brushed along your hand.
Totally feels like my hand. That's crazy.
Feel the sensations.
Yeah.
Line up with each finger.
What?
And so you can see now he's going from the middle finger to the ring finger.
Whoa, yo,
over
this
the
is
thing.
crazy.
Yeah. So now if I just do like a little tap.
So okay, I think maybe the guy doesn't know that he's actually also doing this. Maybe that's what's happening.
Right?
Yeah.
Feel the knuckles. Feel each digit.
This music better not get me in trouble.
Okay, this is where. Yeah. Now I'm gonna do this one more time to train your brain.
Okay.
Right, so you feel your thumb.
Okay, yeah.
Whoa! So this time he's not even doing it on his actual hand, but he can feel it. He can
Right, so
feel it. This is exactly what Lydia was saying. Think of a lemon, and you just bite into a lemon, and then it was almost definitely power of suggestion. Because if she had asked me at that point, did you feel something? I would have been like, no. What? But like simultaneously, and maybe this is something to do with the observer effect or whatever, but I did actually feel that sourness in my mouth. This weirdo just wants to stroke dude's hands with a ruler. You know, I mean, it's fun.
you feel your thumb.
That's not
okay,
even
And your
his
finger.
and nothing on his hand.
This is nuts.
Ring finger.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, behave.
And now you're gonna feel it when I tap it. Feel that?
Yeah.
Feel that?
Whoa.
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I have not been using the other ruler.
What?
Feel that?
Yeah.
I'm not using the ruler.
Whoa. What do you? I mean, it's crazy. It's not. Oh. Whoa.
You
We're
felt
even
that,
like.
right?
Oh no.
Now, check this out.
Oh.
We're gonna do a little test now. Again, this is all in your mind. You're retraining your brain to feel sensations.
Okay.
And your brain is thinking that it's feeling it.
Okay.
So even if it gets a little, what would be considered painful, I will not be harming you because of course I'm not going to be actually hitting your right arm. But your brain really believes that this is in fact your right hand.
Oh,
right?
this is making me nervous.
All right. Here we
Okay.
go. I'll start lightly. Feel that on the thumb.
Whoa. Yeah. Oh. Whoa. I'm totally feeling it in this hand. It feels.
Pinky. It just,
Oh, did you see his pinky move when he did that? Look at his pinky.
Whoa. I'm totally feeling it.
They're
It's
all
feeling
flexing.
it
That's
just,
crazy. That's
Whoa,
crazy.
this is so strange.
I've only ever seen it where they do like the paintbrush and then they take a hammer and they're like, I'm going to hit your hand with a hammer. It's not your hand, it's a fake hand, and they do it, and then they, because what I don't want to was saying, but the flinch is just someone jumping in front of you. But this, again, keep an eye on his hand here.
you feel that?
Yeah, I want to move my hand, but it feels like I can't.
What's that for? Now, again, I would never on purpose hurt you, right?
Okay.
And I would never take a hammer and bash your fingers to where they would hurt, right?
I hope not.
But again, your brain is going to tell you that you're going to feel this, when in fact, I'm not actually going to be causing any damage to your hand, right?
Okay.
We'll start lightly again, okay?
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Very lightly. Here we go.
Look, keep an eye on his actual hand.
Oh, it's so weird. Oh.
Oof.
Oh.
Oh, the infamous thumb when you're hammering. Oof. Missed the nail.
Bruh.
Oh, you know, it feels like an electric shock. It's so strange,
Doesn't it?
Oh, even when I touch myself.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Watch this, watch this. One last electric. Watch this. You ready for this one?
Okay.
Guess which finger I'm gonna hit. Guess
Okay.
which finger. See if you can tell me which one it is.
Middle.
I did not actually hurt you, did you? You didn't feel no actual pain in your real hand. But for an instant, your brain told you that you were thinking that you felt a hammer hitting your
My
hand.
brain thought that this was my hand.
Rewiring your brain. It is possible. It is real. It happens all the time. You just have to be aware that this is what your brain can do. That is the biggest thing. Be aware that your mind can do more than you think it can do. And that includes creating gods. That includes creating answers to questions that you do not have. And that's okay. You just have to be aware of it. So big shout out to all of our donations. So much appreciated. You guys really helped me carry this. I did not have that many questions. Big shout out to Behave. You had some great questions tonight. Thank you again to Mom Tech. I pretend like I know what I'm doing here, guys, but I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. And you guys, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough. Thanks for that. That was a good one. That was a good one. That was a good one. And we're still going. And of course, one more for the Overlord. One more for the Overlord. We can do. We'll see who is in the after party. Since none of you are my fucking friends, and I hate you all. I guess I'll hang out with you. I don't really like you. If you know, you know. Thank you guys so very much. Once again, yes, let's head over to Discord. Let's do an after party. What is Monte saying? As much as I know that's a real thing, I feel like I could allow myself to think that was my real hand. Yeah, you really don't really have a choice. You don't really have a choice. So thank you guys once again. This is the Overlord Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus. Oh, real quick, if you did not see the stream from this weekend, we covered Lydia's entire TikTok page. So everything that she's talked about and put online, that was there. Check that out. Otherwise, this is Morty. I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus. Hey, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace. Oh, damn it. Peace. I can't believe I messed that up. Oh my God.